This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
And I'm Nancy Richards. Welcome to May 14th.
Yes, and we're matching today. We're both in black and white.
We are. So,
I
our,
have, I
our
have
New York City colors.
yes, and I'm in Constitution chic, the First Amendment.
I'm
Um,
in Icelandic chic. It's a little chilly today, so I had to break out the Iceland sweater. So,
it is, I'm kind of waiting for the summer. I'm not wearing big coats or anything, but it's still a little bit, nippy.
well, I saw something on the news before about they're worried about Jersey peaches. Um, climate change is impacting the growth of the peach season. Um, and then they had like a baker there who was kind of like, I use the fresh peaches and it affects their bakery. I thought of my apricot Danish that I always eat. Um, but when Republicans are denying climate change, the fact that we're having wacky weather, like it comes and goes and extremes here and there, that impacts the growth of produce.
Yeah, and everything else. I mean, and all other parts, of the economy and everything. And um, so, yeah, and you are being honored this weekend at the Lathrop Vorsby Scholarship Fund brunch. I'm really
I
excited.
am.
I'm
I am.
really, I am really excited about that because I'm presenting the award to you.
That's why you're excited because you're presenting the award.
And because you're getting it,
Oh,
because you're getting it, and because it's going to be used to definitely bring a much needed tech upgrade to our podcast. But
yes, it is.
yeah,
We're going to be using Manny from Manny and Friends, who runs a wonderful, but he's also a good um, video editor and podcast. So he's going to give me some tech lessons that could help us do some upgrading. So I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it also. And for those of our listeners who may not be aware of the Lathrop Borsby scholarship, it's really a lot of the people in Staten Island politics who are basically like a who's who, have won this scholarship, and ordinarily they've used the scholarship to do like campaign or activist organizing training and things like that. But this is going to be used in a way to improve our podcast. And Nancy's in really good company, and she's among a pantheon of legends in Staten Island politics. And I'm in the process now of completing your speech, and I'm trying to make it really well rounded. I'm trying to do a little bit of who you are, just the fierce, loyal, funny uh, fighter that you are, but also, why the podcast has made a difference, and why, we're definitely going to use this scholarship and put it to good use.
I'm I'm happy that this is an award for activism. Um, it's not, the fact that, I'm getting it is great, but I just like the fact that there is an award out there where people are awarded for being active, um, and not just people who can raise money and you go to galas. This is something a little different. These are people who get involved in, you know, and there's a gamut of what people are doing, but like, one I read was informing people on diabetes. Um, there's people who learning about campaigning and in regards to helping with elections. My money is going to go towards helping this podcast, which I believe, presents a left voice uh, and what's going on. And we bring people on the show that talk about issues that are impacting this, our borough and the city and state and country. And for me personally, this podcast has really put me back into Staten Island activism, which I felt I had a bit of a lull after for a while. So I'm glad that this podcast is doing that. So good. So
Yeah.
we'll be going on Saturday.
Yeah, we're going to be going on Saturday. It's sure to be a good time, and I'm really happy that
And people can buy tickets if they want it. It's at the local,
yes, they can. You could buy a ticket. I think it's $75 now at this point.
and it
Um,
goes towards the scholarship fund.
It
So
does. It does. It goes towards a good cause, and I try and donate to them, even if, I don't have a connection the way I do this year. I was on the board of the late Vorsby Scholarship Fund at one time, and they do a lot of really good work. I'm really happy that we get to kind of meld our worlds here and be a part of it.
can we put their link to the Saturday in the show notes?
Yeah, I'll put their website. I mean, you could, even if you can't attend on Saturday, they always accept donations.
Okay,
Yeah, they always accept donations. So even if you can't attend, but you want to read more about it and you want to know just the impact that they've had, their website is really good. And they also have, like, Nancy's going to be a part of this. They have, it's almost like a hall of fame for many years of all the recipients. And you may see some familiar faces there across the years.
good. I'm looking forward to it. So, yay. So that's Saturday. So that's good
Yeah,
news for us. So,
yeah, and
but
s- and yeah,
but with every good news, you know,
there's a pile of shit. There's a
pile of
there's a huge pile of shit. Like, and that could be about anything that we talk about
yeah,
tonight.
true.
And
Hi, Guillermo. Hi, Guillermo.
Hi, Guillermo. Um, well, actually, this part is not quite the pile of shit it was a few weeks ago, but there, Mike DeSillis, who is the lone Democratic Party candidate now on Staten Island for the congressional seat to run against Nicole Maliotakis, he actually had a press conference a few days ago, which informed his supporters about what had happened over the last few weeks as far as the ballot chaos and where things stand now. And the one thing he emphasized, and I will emphasize again here, is that even though Alison Ziogas dropped her campaign a few weeks ago, um, she's still, because of the Board of Elections, she's still going to appear on the June primary ballot along with him. And so we have to emphasize that he is the one lone Democrat in this race who's running an active campaign. And so we really
Right.
have
So
to
people
support
need
him.
so to encourage people to go out and vote in the primary,
Yes, and vote for
um,
him, and vote for
and to
him.
vote for Mike.
Yeah.
So,
And
um,
vote for him, and because he's, again, he made this point too, and we wish Allison well, but he's the only active Democrat running a campaign, and so and he's out there, he's doing the work, and we have to absolutely support him.
yes. So, what the primary is June
23rd, I believe.
23rd. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so if you are a registered Democrat, please go out and vote in the June primary and vote for Mike DeSillis, who is
Yeah,
the
and
only person running.
yeah.
So,
And I posted on our Instagram page because his social media put out like a really comprehensive guide to what had happened over the last couple of weeks in accord, and it kind of aligned with their press conference, and I posted it in our Instagram story. So this way, our listeners, have the full scope of information as it relates to all of this. And even though it seems like there's only one active Democrat running, technically there's a primary. The advance called it a ghost primary because, one
yeah,
of the candidates is out. I called it a phantom primary. I'm using. I like that better. I
called a
like.
bullshit primary. Like, why do we need to have one now?
Well, because the Republicans who sit on the Board of Elections, like they're doing around the rest of the country, they have an interest in fucking around with, how people vote in elections and uh, creating chaos and division and confusion. And so they're rather than just, rather than actually have the one active candidate proceed to run in the general election, they have to put us through all this rigmarole.
Yeah, it is rigmarole and unnecessary. And not to mention how much does it cost for a primary to run, you know?
Oh, it's a lot of
Um,
money. It's a lot of
yeah.
money.
So the wasteful of this all. Like there is one candidate, there is no one's fighting for another seat. It's not like he should just be on the ballot. It's a little nuts how that.
Yeah, he is, and he is on the ballot, but I think just you know, that to have this primary when there's no other candidate really is stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid is a good word. Stupid is a good word. So, absolutely.
I felt
Um,
like
well, get out and
I
vote,
felt like I was
everyone.
like 7 years old.
Get out and
Yeah,
vote for the primary if you're a registered Democrat.
yeah. I felt like I was 7 years old saying that. It's stupid.
It's stupid. Well, it
It's
is
stupid.
stupid.
It is
It's
stupid. Like it's stupid, you duty head
yeah.
Republicans.
Well, anyhow, so we'll have to go do that. Yeah, because Mike needs to be on the ballot in
Yeah,
November.
absolutely. And
And
it's
speaking of November with all the districts,
yeah, and this is, a broader pattern that we see, New York City Republicans, are trying to create chaos in our race here and but around the country, it's had a more deleterious impact because they're, as we talked about last week, they're just basically erasing any and all Black power and representation in the South.
Jim Crow 2.0,
Yeah.
absolutely. It really is. I mean, the fact that they are like what the lines are going to look like in regards to the Republican districts. The problem is that Republicans know that they can't win based off of what they've done because they've done nothing. They've their president has has caused chaos. He started a war. Prices are high. Gas prices are high. Um, and you know, he the ICE detention is cruel, what they've been doing. So they can't win on their policies. So they're going to cheat. And this is how they're going to cheat. They're going to redraw all these lines. So it's not, and they're going to label it as, what do they call it? Election integrity. Was that the word? Was that the word they were
Oh yeah.
using?
Yeah, and just for our listeners to have kind of a sense of how this is all done. So in Tennessee, for example, instead of Memphis, which is a majority Black city, getting its own congressional district, they're dividing it up. They're dividing it up and they're adding more conservative rural parts to those congressional districts, diluting the impact of the Black voters in that city and the voters just in general in that city. And they're doing that across the South. They're doing that to Jim Clyburn's seat in South Carolina. They're doing it everywhere. They're doing it in Louisiana. And, not only that, but in Tennessee, actually, the Democrats in the state legislature, particularly the Black Democrats like Justin Pearson, have been punished by all of the Democrats in the Tennessee state legislature have been removed from their committees because they were protesting this redrawing. And so they are systematically erasing any and all Black representation and voting power in the South. And they're doing it just to consolidate power. These people are nihilists. They don't believe in anything. They believe in
They're
power for its
creating
own sake.
they're creating a Republican minority uh the majority. Yeah,
Minority rule, and
they're
it's like the Afrikaners in apartheid South
yeah,
Africa.
yeah, because they know that their party is going away. Their party is diminishing. Trump is destroying their party, and I'm sorry, but they're doing nothing about it. And I know that like people like Thomas Massey have spoken up, and now he's getting primaried, and it looks like he might lose his seat. And that's unfortunate that so that's just going to discourage any other Republicans from. But
And yeah, and the
forget.
Indiana Republicans too, who stood up against his redistricting there, they all lost too. And so unfortunately, it doesn't create the incentive actually do the right thing here.
But then MAGA, you know, a lot of people aren't going to vote for these crazy MAGA right wingers. So it's going to go against the Republican Party anyway, because Democrats will probably win those seats uh, because there'll be
Yeah, because
more,
I'm thinking that, they can't gerrymander their way out of their problems. I think the economy is so in the toilet. I think this war is really put, you could trace every higher bill that you have at this point, whether it's gas or anything else, to Trump starting this war or imposing tariffs. And those are things that you can't run away from. And especially given that that was such a central focus of him running for re-election. If you elect me, then I'm going to make things cheaper. Well, you haven't. It's actually gotten worse. And not only has it gotten worse, but you're not only taking away things that are, were affordable before you got there, but you're also taking away people's rights and you're destroying democracy, all just to own the libs, really.
Yeah, there it's a power grab. It's cheating. It's unfortunate. So we really have to get once again we have to go out and vote and in larger numbers than and everyone needs to get out and vote. There is a I know
And
Stun Out Action is doing a postcard writing on Saturday. Um, unfortunately, we won't be able to go because we have, our event um, at the cafe on Castleton Avenue, Quarter Cafe. Is that?
Uda, Cafe Uda, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
Uda.
Uda
Yeah,
Cafe. And I posted that on our story as well for our listeners so that if they want to participate, they can. But yes, absolutely. It has to be too big to rig. It has to be too big to rig. It has to be like
yeah,
what happened in Hungary with Orban. It has to be
yeah.
too big to rig. And interestingly enough, of course, Nicole Maliotakis posts on her Facebook how much she hates partisan gerrymandering, and yet she doesn't mind when Republicans do it, because all she talks about is what Newsom did in California and then the Virginia redistricting. She never mentions what's happening in the South right now. And she also never
Uh,
mentions the fact that when she had the chance to vote for a national ban, when she had the chance to vote for a national ban on gerrymandering, she voted against it. And so
so
she's a hypocrite. She's a liar. She is a worthless representative. And we have to vote her out. And
yeah,
we have
vote
to
Mike in,
we
vote her
have
out.
to add to this Democratic majority.
So we got
Yeah.
to vote for Mike twice. We got to vote for Mike twice.
Yeah.
The primary and then the
In
general
June and in
election.
November.
And really, we need
June
to
and
up.
November.
I know she's the incumbent and she comes with some sort of a, kind of head in the race, but we can beat an incumbent. We've done it before. It's voter turnout. I do know that when people turn out, we do flip that seat. And I'm sorry, guys, like Nicole has really done nothing, and she blindly supports um, cruelty in this country. Um, she's not, so yeah, vote her out.
Vote her out, and she is emblematic of just why what she's emblematic of the reasons why the quality of life in this country has declined over the last 2 years because of the corruption, because of the ineptitude, because of the hypocrisy, and just the real moral collapse of our political system, because there's no sense at all of anything being right or wrong. It's just kind of power for its own sake. And she
It's
is a perfect symbolic representation of that.
and she's quiet. She's quiet. She won't speak out against Trump at all. But she's very vocal if it happens to her. But if it happens to the other party, she stays relatively silent. So in regards to gerrymandering, um, and if we just look at the political corruption, do you remember the lawsuit with the IRS? um, Donald Trump was suing the IRS because somebody exposed his tax returns. Oh my God. What is he hiding, first of all? You know, um, Now what the guy did was probably wrong in essence of he shouldn't have exposed. But so he's suing the IRS, the United States government, for a ridiculous amount of money. And I heard that there might be a
His own
settlement.
government, his own government.
Well, yeah. Um, they're looking um, to have a settlement where Donald Trump, his family, and the Trump organization would be immune from any IRS audits ever. so they can just pretty much run amok in regards to avoiding paying taxes. That's what they're looking
Well,
to
and
settle on, as opposed to like an apology for uh for this, which in other cases that's what the IRS did. They issued a formal apology. Um and but
well,
he's looking to get that done. This man has normalized grifting where it's just like, oh, Donald Trump, there he goes again. Like he's made so much money. His family has made so much money off of him being president, and we've normalized it that it's okay. And and he's never going to be held accountable for it. And they called
well, and
Gotti
well, the
Teflon
one
Don. I call this one the Teflon Don.
what Gotti failed to do is he did not have a Supreme Court who basically agreed that, he should be immune. And I think that's where this comes from. They've given him a sense of, being bulletproof and the sense of, and I mean bulletproof metaphorically, so save your comments. I'm not calling for assassination.
Yeah,
A sense that
I'm
he can
listening.
do these things with impunity because of the because of this immunity ruling that they made 2 years ago. And it's not surprising that he would want to uh, make money off of this. He's an opportunist, and his just to be clear for our listeners, since he returned to office, Donald Trump's net worth has increased over $4 billion. It was 2 billion before he returned to office. Now it's 6 billion, and so that gives you a sense of the grift here. And the grift is from a million different things. It's from mainly his cryptocurrency that he's has people investing in now, along with some other ventures where he has to make sure he and his family get their vig.
Well, at every, when he sends in people into the Middle East, he sends his son-in-law in and his business, Wyckoff, to go make, he's not sending in Secretary of State. He's sending in, his
No,
son-in-law, and they're making deals as they're making diplomatic deals. So the grift is there.
yeah,
So the Trump family, he got off the plane today with his son and daughter-in-law. Are they going to be making some grifting, some deals? Um, they're like, why is his son and daughter-in-law on this trip? Why? And also, why are the CEOs, Elon Musk, Cook, why are these people, the guy, Navivia, Wang, why are these people on this trip to China? Aside from some of his cabinet, like his Secretary of State. But
yeah,
so the
and well,
corruption and grift
they
is
are.
running rapid. So if that happens, if that deal is made with the IRS, um, why pay taxes? President doesn't.
Yeah,
So, you know, um,
and yeah, why pay taxes? And he's doing this and it's an extortion scheme to extort his own government. I mean, let's be clear about that. That's
yeah,
that's really what it was. And you asked earlier about what's he hiding? Up until recently, I don't think he was ever as rich as he said he was. And actually, I'm in the middle of reading Mary Trump's book again, Too Much and Never Enough, and in part, what she says is that you know it, it doesn't matter how many buildings he puts his name on, doesn't matter how many things he slaps his face on or how much money he grifts, it'll never be enough. And because he's such a broken, wounded individual, despite all of the machismo, despite all of the shows of hubris and bombastic, confidence or so-called confidence, he is a wounded little boy who knows he's nothing that he says. He's not the best. He's not the smartest. He was certainly up
well,
until recently not the richest.
his son has publicly said recently that he wants the Trump family to be the richest family in the country. So it's just out there that they're looking to make money. It used to be
Well,
like
yeah,
a faux pas that anyone, like an elected official would actually profit at all while they're and they not even mention the Trump family. Like our own congresswoman is, like the and the other representatives who are profiting
she's
off of
insider traded.
insider trading. So
Oh, she's insider traded. Yeah.
so I laugh at was it yesterday or today? The Senate passed a bill that said if the government goes you know goes on not strike,
If it's shut down,
if they shut
if it's shut
down,
down.
the Senate's gonna not take a paycheck. But the thing is most senators are independently wealthy, so if they didn't get a paycheck, it's like at first I was like, okay, that's good, But then I thought, they're all independent wealthy, so they can afford to not get a paycheck. Why are they independent wealthy? You know, they've made a
Yeah.
lot of money
Well,
being
they're
senators.
independently wealthy. Yeah, they're independently wealthy because they've used their office to grift and to gain access to information that we don't have and to manipulate markets and to do all of the things that they're doing. Nicole Malliotakis has insider traded for years, and in the last race in 2024, it was revealed that she said that her spouse profited off of some kind of sale. Well, guess what? She doesn't have a spouse, and so she's grifting as well.
Yes, absolutely. And they've normalized it. They've made it normal. We're teaching, I find that this country has been saying to people that it's okay if you cheat, if you don't get caught. And it's okay. Like that's how
Well,
we,
and even if you do, even if, even if you
or
do,
our
or
president says that even if you do get caught, you
even if you
deny it.
do, it's sort of
Deny.
like, well, okay, it's
Our
fake
president
news.
teaches
It
us
doesn't
to lie.
exist. It's Well, that's what he's done. That's what he's done for his whole career. Again, I'm reading Mary Trump's book again, and basically his whole life has been spent grifting the workers who he was supposed to pay, grifting and not paying them, declaring bankruptcy a
Yeah.
million times. Real and he's grifted and conned the American people into believing he is a strong and smart businessman because he played one on TV. And so it's just really like, another book that's really good and explains a lot of this is Maggie Haberman's Confidence Man about all of this. He's just such a used car salesman, but at such a macro level.
Well, this is our president of the United States. And the problem is that we're supposed to take this office seriously. And it's, he's a con man. He's conning this country or part of the people in this country that what he's doing is that he's not doing anything actually. That what he's doing is fine and nothing to see here, Um, it's okay if I, take from the top, skim off the top, get the cream, skim the cream off the top, and we're left with nothing. And why are people okay with this? Well, a lot of people are starting to realize that they're not okay with this. I mean, I had to go I had to go to the supermarket in the middle of the week. I usually go once a week, but I'm on this diet. I'm eating a lot more fruits and vegetables, so I ran out of vegetables on a Thursday. I'm like, that's a first. But I had to go to the supermarket to go get some, I spent $100. I spent $160 last week. I spent $100 on just a short run. I was like, what
Me
the?
too. Me too.
It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
we
Um,
do. Yeah. And everything is more expensive as a direct result of the policies of this president. And, and oftentimes you could say, especially as it relates to gas prices, I think, a lot of the times presidents of both parties either get unfair credit or unfair blame when gas prices go up and down, when it's actually a much more complicated picture than that. But in this case, you can directly tie that to Donald Trump's ill-fated war in Iran, which is going horribly, and his tariffs. I mean, he thought he was going to take out the regime the way he did Maduro and in Venezuela, and it would be just kind of, a Call of Duty type of video game adventure, but it hasn't been that way. And in fact, actually, the Iranians have a lot more leverage now than they ever did because of their control over the Strait of Hormuz. And he's going after, he wants to go after Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan for actually reporting that in the New York Times because they did this big expose about how Iran has the leverage now. And so, he called them treasonous for reporting that. But it's the truth. It is the truth. And he just
That's
can't
dangerous
admit
because if
that,
he,
yeah,
how is that treasonous? It's not.
well,
They're
well,
reporting
because
the truth.
essentially, yeah, well, because essentially, they're basically going against his narrative, which is, of course, treasonous to him. But it's the truth because, again, and every past president and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said recently that any time that a potential war with Iran was discussed in the Obama administration, she said the first thing that advisors let them know is that the Strait of Hormuz would be interrupted and closed, that was the first thing that they said would go. And so that's part of the reason why they never did it.
Well, Obama made a deal that apparently was working, and Trump ripped it up because Obama did it. This president works on ego, and that's the dangerous thing. It's all about ego. A lot of the things that he's ripped up is because Barack Obama did it, because he has this hate for Barack Obama. Uh, I think, well, partially because of racism, and second because, he made fun of him at a White House Correspondents' meeting, and he can't take a joke, and he can't take it. He's the thin-skinned person, so everyone's going to pay for it now, and he's doing, he's doing a good job at that. I'll say that. If I want to give the president credit for doing anything good, is um, shaping the country into what he wants.
Well,
But it's not necessarily for the benefit of this
well,
country,
yeah,
though.
and
It's for the benefit of him. He only cares about himself. That's it.
no, no, it's not. And I spoke about this before on the podcast, but I saw Kamala Harris last year for her book tour, and one of the things she said is that one of the things she could not have predicted was the capitulation and the ease with which certain institutions would just go along, not just Congress, certainly court to a large extent, and also our institutions of the press. I was happy to see that ABC filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration for violation of the First Amendment. And so I'm hoping that that goes forward. I'm hoping that they take it to its to the highest conclusion and that they don't settle like some of the other outlets have done. And so, we'll see how that all plays out. But our fearless leader is in China now. He's in China now, and he is going there with the United States in a much weakened position because of his actions.
Well, he's brought his entourage. So he's gone to China with
Yeah.
his grifting entourage. He brought a piece of his family, um, and he brought some of his CEO buddies, and of course some diplomats too, because I would assume it's a diplomatic, um, in regards to meeting Xi. But you know, Xi's also in a position. He's friends with Iran. He can also he's going to meet with Putin soon. Putin's the next visit, so he can really be influential in
Mhm.
stopping the war in Ukraine and stopping the war in Iran. Um, and I think they know that. I think China knows that. Um, and they're playing the slow, steady hand, and they're winning the race. But I also agree with what G
They
said
are.
today
And
that there's I agree that we can exist as two nations that are even, that are powerful, and we don't have to be adversaries. That China too can also um, grow as well. There's no, I don't see how
well, in the past,
that's a conflict.
yeah, well, in the past, the United States and China, were adversarial mainly because, in past administrations, we had claimed to care about human rights. I remember, I remember when, again, I'll bring up Hillary Clinton, the women's rights are human rights speech in Beijing, as First Lady. That was part of the tension as it related to the United States and China. But now, of course, there's economic competition, and there's geopolitical strategy in it as well. And I'm really worried now about Taiwan because Taiwan, with Putin invading Ukraine and with Trump going after Venezuela and, threatening Greece for China to say, well, we can go after Taiwan and you can't do anything about it. And that's going to create even further
Well,
economic
she
calamity.
said if the United States didn't handle the ordeal with Taiwan properly, that was going to jeopardize our relationship, which would not be beneficial. Um, so however that means, and Trump responded by complimenting him and then invited him to back to Washington in September. But but I do know Marco Rubio has a strong, I think Rubio was one that was in support of Taiwan's independence. But Taiwan is giving what's something's happening in Taiwan where they're they're supposed to be given back to China. What's going on? They're democratically elected, but isn't there some sort of like, isn't it with Hong Kong? Like the same thing Hong Kong had to give themselves back.
Well, I don't think so because I know that, the status of Taiwan has been another point of tension between the United States and China for a few years. I remember during the Biden presidency, Nancy Pelosi went to visit, when she was Speaker of the House, she went to visit Taiwan to reaffirm U.S. support for them to
Oh, I
remain
remember that. Yeah.
independent. Yeah, and so and that caused issues between the United States and China. But I worry also
So
that,
we're just trying to get then the idea that they can take over Taiwan.
yeah. And so I think I'm not convinced that if China were to invade Taiwan, I remember when Biden was president, he said the US would intervene to help them. I'm not convinced Donald Trump would do it. And in fact, he views his own power in very much the same way as Xi's. He is somebody, he actually said, "Oh, I love Xi. I love him. He rules his people, over 1 billion people, with an iron fist." That shows you just the kind of power that he thinks he should have over his people, ruling with an iron fist.
Well, maybe their diplomacy is, look, I'll leave you alone. Like, you go over and you take over China. Putin, you go over and take Ukraine. I'm going to go over and take over, the Americas. Because Cuba's next. The CIA was meeting with them today. God knows what about, but and they'll, Venezuela, Cuba, and we'll take over here in our hemisphere. And then, the hell with self-determination for other countries. And
Yeah,
I had a little bit of an argument with someone, because there's the Cuban people that support, going back to Batista or whatever. I don't know. But this woman was like, the Cubans haven't had free and fair elections. I said, so that gives the right for the United States to to strangle them as far as energy is concerned. I go, we're hurting the Cuban people. And they were like, don't you talk, like they were telling me I had no right because they were born there. And I was like, yeah, but you live in the United States now. So I go, what do you expect the Cuban people to go back to? You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I think if the embargo was lifted, if the embargo was lifted and the sanctions were lifted, the country could possibly operate, and then from there, maybe recuperate, and then maybe we could think about government.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, um, I think he wants to do something like Cuba because it's actually a much more, at least as it relates to what's happened in Iran, it's a much more open and shut
Well,
type of
the
deal.
Floridians will, Florida will always be red if
Yeah.
if that's the case. And, Rubio will love that, be a big win for Rubio and probably set him up for presidential aspirations.
Well, I think those are delusions of grandeur, whatever his aspirations are. I think Donald Trump had cut his balls off 10 years ago and has been wearing them around his neck ever since.
Yeah. So, but this week Rubio's the flavor of the month. Vance isn't with them on the trip. So,
Well, Vance is face planted in everything he's done. I mean, he goes, sends him to Orban in Hungary to get him elected, and he loses. He sends him to Pakistan to negotiate and into the war. He face plants. Even going to a Turning Point USA event with Erica Kirk, he face plants because like 10 people show up.
right.
He
So,
he is the most unlikable, uh,
vice
wannabe drag,
president.
yeah, most unlikable wannabe drag queen with his eyeliner, uh, and just that there ever was. And so he just has the charisma of a doorknob.
Yeah, that is true. He does have the charisma of a doorknob. But I think, like in regards to the playing, like the Trump's playing the game, who's he going to favor for presidential pick? He's kind of playing them back and forth. So this week is Rubio, and last week was Vance, and we'll see. And maybe next week will be his son. So,
Well, I think that's ultimately the goal. I think he wants, I don't even think it's the son. I think he wants Ivanka. I think he wants Ivanka. I think this is all just a big episode of The Apprentice. If you watch The Apprentice, which I did a few times. I watched it because I love Joan Rivers, and she was the Celebrity Apprentice winner.
yeah.
One year, and that's what it always was. It was just playing one against the other, and that's what he's done here on a much grander scale, uh, and it's become really deleterious for our democracy.
Well, his family it's all about them profiting and them. So, I wouldn't be surprised. So we'll see how, I think with China, I think they once again stroked his ego. They had the military parade for, the military out and the waving of the children, like they're like, hi, like waving like, little flags and, some pomp, and they had a nice state dinner. So it definitely stroked his ego a little bit, but I think they're just playing, she's going to do what he's going to do.
Well, yeah, and actually, the one thing I found to be really illustrative was when Trump did his usual. He shakes his hand and then tries to like pull him in, and she like was standing there stone. And like that really showed who was the power there in that exchange because she stood there firmly, kind of planted into the floor, and Trump's trying to like bring him over, and he wasn't budging, he wasn't moving. And so it was really demonstrative of like who the actual power is. And unfortunately, under the leadership of Donald Trump, the United States is a power in decline.
Yeah.
The United States is a power in decline. We have lost any and all moral authority. We have let the most poorest and vulnerable people die when we let USAID get looted by that social retard Elon Musk. And we are allowing other countries to go to China because China, while they are autocratic, they are
Stable.
basically, yeah, they're stable. They are
And
stable.
and their government is stable, and they're not going to flip flop back and forth. When I was in Africa and in East Africa and South Africa, those areas, those regions, I noticed so much infrastructure with China, China's name on it because they're investing in those countries, and you can see it. And they're silently going in, and they are influencing. And this is why I don't understand why he's burning bridges with our allies already, because Um, he's burning the bridges of friendships that we've made throughout history. Um, and this is where I think he's really failed diplomatically. People might argue like he's being a strong arm, but he's hurting alliances. And I think about this whether he's in power in the future or down the road, but whether people would want to, do business with us. I mean, right now we still have money and we're a strong economy and we're a powerful nation. So of course, people do need to answer to the US, but that's declining. And when this whole thing of make America great again, he's not.
Well, he's not only is he not, but we're by all metrics, we are much worse off than we were before he came back into power. And so, I think that China and people don't want to do business with us because we are unstable. We had a few years of Biden, who is a relatively normal person, and then we go back to this psycho. We go back to this lunatic, and I think the reason why he's burned bridges with allies, particularly in Western Europe and Canada, and the NATO alliance, is because those people were democratically elected. He likes people who seize power by force. He likes Kim Jong-un. He likes Vladimir Putin. He likes Xi Jinping. He wants people, as he said earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday or before he left, oh, he rules with an iron fist. He likes
Yeah.
that. That's the kind of leader he wants to
He
be.
likes, yeah, he likes leaders that have images of them up, in solid gold, in like around the country. That's all he wants to do. Do we know any other president that has put their name on something while they were president? Like, I need to have something named after me
Well,
now,
no. Well, no,
not
I mean,
later, not
yeah.
after he's left the presidency, but he needs to see his name up there. Like that AI generated thing he made of his face, like up on Mount Rushmore.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Well, that's another thing. He needs to get some fucking sleep. All he's been doing is posting from
oh my
10
God.
p.m. 10 p.m. to like 4 a.m. most nights. And I just think
Them naked on a, not naked, but they're like bare chested on a beach.
oh
Um,
no, they're in the reflecting pool.
oh, that's right. They're
That's
bathing.
they're in the reflecting pool, which is even worse. And because he's turning it into, a Mar-a-Lago spa. And I
Yeah.
think and so I think, again, I'll go back to Mary Trump because she said it too. She said he's putting his name on everything and he's putting his face on everything because he knows deep down that nobody else ever will. Because he's been so destructive, he has cannibalized this nation. He has
He's a
destroyed it. Yeah,
bad person.
he
He's
is
a bad
he's
person.
he has destroyed the social fabric of this country. And
Bad president, a bad
yeah.
person.
And she said it perfectly. She said he knows that nobody else will ever do that for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He if you ever want to know what Donald Trump's going to do, look at what he says about other people, and then that's what he's going to do. So,
Yeah.
because that's how he feels inside, or he's complaining about something they're doing when he's the one who's really doing it. So, yeah, he's making Washington, D.C. so ugly. That White House, oh my God, that White House looks like, like I went to like the thrift store and I just grabbed every gold frame and hung it up in my room and like it puked gold. It's
Well,
disgusting.
yeah, it looks like a tacky, it looks like a tacky spa almost. Everything. He literally, paved paradise, the rose garden, and put up a parking lot. You remember that
Oh
song?
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yes. And tried to put up $1 million, $1 billion ballroom. So, and I was watching something on Comedy Central. They were making fun of like Fox, like advocating for like why Trump needs this ballroom. And it's hilarious. Like it's America needs this ballroom. America is going to benefit from this ballroom. America is going to benefit from the ballroom. How's America going to benefit from the ballroom?
America,
We're not even going to
America
be
will not.
allowed in the ballroom. So how are we going to benefit from it? And
America will
especially
not.
of who's going to pay for it. How it was supposed to be donors, and now we're going to have the Congress pay for it. So how is like this switch from going from private donations to the fact that now it's coming out of our budget? How is that okay? How are people not in arms over that? I mean, some people are, but not
Oh
the
yeah. Well, it's interesting. Scholars of authoritarianism like Ruth Ben-Ghiat, who studies strongmen, professor at NYU, she always says that every time autocrats pursue something and they really want it to happen, they'll conflate the country's interests with their own. America needs the ballroom, not I need the ballroom. It's the
yeah.
Americans who need it. And she calls that personalist rule, where every part of the government is used to fulfill the personal needs of the ruler. So, for example, you use the Justice Department to go after political enemies, and the Defense Department too, by the way, because they're going after Mark Kelly. Um, you grift other parts of the government, like the IRS, to pay you money in an extortion scheme. You're giving no bid contracts to your friends to put up these ugly things around Washington, D.C. and make the reflection pool look like, a D-list country club. And so that's oftentimes what happens with these autocratic rulers. They conflate their own wishes, their own desires, their own ambitions with the country's. And if you are opposed to any of that, you're opposed to the country.
Yes. And I'm afraid what they're going to do with that ballroom, how ugly it's going to be or gaudy. And
Well, and
like
not only that,
I
but
think
there's a
about like when
bunker.
he leaves, all of the things we're going to have to take down.
Well, the bunker, he's building a bunker underneath it. He's
Well,
building a
wasn't there a
bunker.
bunker underneath there anyway?
Well,
There
I
is
think,
some kind of a safe house down there.
oh, there is, but I think this one is separate. This one is going to be underneath the ballroom specifically. He's building that, and I think he wants to camp out there. So, once it's time to leave, he doesn't have to go.
Never will. No, I'm not going. My ballroom. My ballroom.
Like that song, the Jennifer Hudson song from Dreamgirls. I'm not
I'm
going.
telling you, I'm staying. And you, and you're gonna love me. Sorry, I can't sing. But yes, yeah, we're gonna. No, sorry, Donald Trump. I do not love you. I do not love
No.
you. And
I don't think Donald Trump loves Donald Trump. Again, this is all about insecurity and it's all about bruised ego. Nobody loved him. And Mary Trump's book, they said it was a totally fucked up family dynamic. And and we're all paying the price for it. Men would rather destroy 250 years of democracy than go to therapy.
yes, he. Oh, yeah. I, okay, tired of Donald Trump. What do we got next here?
Well,
Besides,
we
let's talk about something good. Let's talk about Mandami.
Yeah, yeah. So Mamdani announced the other day, Mayor Mamdani announced that the city budget would be balanced, and it would be balanced without having to raise property taxes or cut essential city services or jobs. And he's done that by doing a few things, and I have it here because it's kind of a multifaceted approach in terms of how they did it. So he is paired up with the state. So Hochul's proposal to tax second homes in New York, that is going to fill some of the gap. Not quite the tax the rich that he had in mind, but it's still something.
Yeah,
Then the then we were talking about this before we came on, deferring pension payments to the pension system in New York City for public employees like us over time. Um, then
I'm a little
uh,
nervous about that one.
Yeah, well, I think that's more broadly. I don't know if that's to individual pensions. I think that's just
Still,
paying.
it's our
Yeah,
pension.
yeah. And so I think that's what's happening. And then there's a bunch of like one-time fixes that does it. Now, just because the mayor announces a framework that he thinks is going to work for this budget, the city council still has to weigh in. And they still have to, make their adjustments to the budget, and we'll see how that turns out.
Well, congratulations to Mondami for figuring this out, working. And you know what? Of course he couldn't get everything. He I I actually commend him on working with, and I also commend the government. They have been working together. Initially during the election, a lot of people saw a clash of, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do this. But they have come together uh, on principles that he really ran on, and were able to make some tweaks and get a budget passed. So good for him.
Yeah,
I wish he'd be better to Staten Island, but
yeah,
so
I
far
want
so
him.
good.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the relationship with Staten Island improves, and I'm optimistic about this budget too. I wasn't sure how this was going to end because a few months ago, he was proposing property tax increases as kind of a nuclear option if there was no tax on the wealthy to be had. And so I think that the fact that he was able to get something is good. And I think politically, the governor did a really smart move by taxing the second homes because
Yeah.
it's a luxury item. It's a luxury item to have a second home.
Yeah. Like people who have second homes, you really don't get much sympathy f for them. And people are like, oh, well, you're pissing off, someone like that who contributes. It was like a Zimmer who he was talking about his house on Fifth Avenue. And but the fact of the matter is these people have second homes worth like, over $5 million.
Yeah.
I'm scraping like $2 together, so I have to pay like my $1,000 tax bill that I still have. So really, so
Yeah, I'm not playing the violin for them.
no, we're not. And so I think this is a great way. You want to have a second home, and this is not a second home like I know families who have worked all their lives, they have some equity and they're able to, let's say, go chip in and like I know some people who have bought like something down the shore, and they rent it out. Like that's how they make, like we're not talking about that type of second home. We're talking about, people that live on Park Avenue.
Bazillions,
Like we're
bazillions.
talking
Yeah.
about Donald Trump who has, residency in New York but lives in Florida. So he's going to get taxed. I don't know if he'll pay it because we're,
He hasn't in the
we're
past,
not
and he
allowed to
probably
look
won't.
at what if he follows the rules, and we have to,
Well, you know, like I said, too much and never enough. He's the richest, no, because you won't show your tax returns. He's the smartest, no, you won't show your grades. He is the most powerful. He's this, he's the that. He's just a walking bag of insecurity. And again, we're all paying for it. Men would rather destroy democracy than go to therapy.
yeah. Well, congratulations, Mandami, on your budget proposal, and we'll see what the city council does, and I'm sure they'll. I don't see why they wouldn't. Why wouldn't they
Well,
not?
usually what the city council does is that they tend to make sure that their district's priorities are included. So if there's something that they want to see funded, or if there's an issue that they want dealt with in their district, they make sure that that happens in their phase of the budget negotiations. And so I think that's really what's going to happen. I don't see the framework changing all that much, but I definitely see, certain things changing here
Tweaking
and
it here
there.
and there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. So
Yeah.
that's why they're there to
Um,
look after their districts.
yeah. And then, you were talking about earlier,
Oh, yes.
there's a
So
Politico article
I
that
was listening to
I,
Dan Abrams and he had the author on this guy's name is Cheney, Kyle Cheney. I don't know if relations to the Cheney family, but did an investigative article um that cited 90% of the deportation detention cases were ruled against Trump and ICE. Um, and and these were all the lower courts, and the president and Homeland Security are hoping that the Supreme Court does will kind of overrule a lot of these But some of the examples, there was over 11,000 cases that were thrown out. But just a few examples. A mother who was nursing, she was in active refugee status. This is what fucking pisses me off. People are here as refugees. They're running from something. Like the fact that we are turning people from Haiti back. Has anyone seen what's going on in Haiti lately? You know, like there's a it's dangerous there. And these people have refugee status and you're turning that back. Why? Because Biden initiated the status? Like, how cruel is that? So there was a mother who was nursing. Um, she was a case. Then there was a mom who was separated from her 1 year old child, and she only got reunited because the child wound up in the hospital. Parents of people who serve in the U.S. military being detained. A 5 year old just coming home from school being detained. They deported people despite court orders, and the U.S. and actually they recognize the fact that they have done that. So my question is like how we're not outraged over that Homeland Security is defying court orders. And Trump's is just hoping that the Supreme Court's gonna just,
Well, in the past they have. I mean,
say that this is
they call it
okay.
they've
Um,
legalized racial profiling with the Kavanaugh stops.
and the judges that are issuing that are ruling against Trump uh, on all these ICE detentions and deportations are not just Biden appointed judges or Obama. They're Trump appointed judges and they're Obama appointed. I mean, Reagan and Bush. So it doesn't matter what political party they're ruling against them because they're going against the Constitution there. Um,
The law is the
and
law.
Homeland Security is making this notion that to go against the catch and release um, is that they have to detain people um, while they are in their status. Not to mention, many these people are leading productive lives,
Well,
and
yeah. Well, Mark Wayne Mullen, actually, who is the replacement to the disgraced and fired Kristi Noem, who's at home with her big titty Brian husband. Um, uh, he recently said, Mark Wayne Mullen, this is the Homeland Security Secretary. He said, "Oh, I don't know. ICE has been demonized lately. I don't know why." I'll tell you why. Because they are taking people without due process. They're shooting Americans on the street. They terrorized Minneapolis for months. They are the Gestapo. They are a brown shirt political militia who is aimed to terrorize the opponents of this regime. They need to be abolished from top to bottom.
well, what about the just being detained, the conditions of the detainees? It's like being in jail. People are being jailed. Um, Not to mention they're being removed from their state, so it's impossible for them to get representation. Or if they are let go, they're letting them go like in the middle of nowhere, like in Texas, but they're from New York with nothing to like they just drop them off on a corner somewhere and go bye-bye. Like
Or when
that's
they deport
cruel.
them, a lot of the times they're deporting them to places they have zero connection to. Colombian woman the other day, one of the courts ruled that the administration had to facilitate her return because she was deported to the Congo, another really dangerous place. It's been at civil war
Yes.
for decades.
Like yes, and like this is just cruel. I think that people are this whole thing about yes. But here's the other thing too. There was legislation in Congress that would have helped handle a lot of these issues. But of course he had that squashed and it's not coming back. They're not going to reissue that legislation. Um But these are just some of the the basis of some of their ruling. Due process violation, mandatory detentions rejected. Um, there's well, in this article, they listed, I think, all of the 11,000 rulings here. The judges and who appointed them, yeah, they come from all the presidents, Clinton, Bush, Biden, Obama, Trump, um, and mandatory detention rejected, no due process. These are mandatory detention rejected. That's a big one. No due process, due process violation, no due process. I'm sorry, this country was founded on due process. When you are charged with something, you have a right to, plead that case. Um,
Yeah, well, and this, if they're relying on the Supreme Court has kind of had a mixed record. As I mentioned earlier, there's the Kavanaugh stops that basically legalize racial profiling. But then I remember early on the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously to facilitate his return to the United States because they had ruled that, his due process rights were violated. And so I think, I don't know what the Supreme Court would do about a lot of these cases. But, again, it's clear that ICE is an agency that's out of control. It's one that is not only serving as an immigration arm, it's serving as a means of political intimidation. You could bet one of the things he's going to try and do in the election is send ICE agents to polling places, and he's going to try and intimidate voters.
intimidate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to call for this agency to be abolished. And one of the things I give the Democratic leadership a lot of shit on this podcast, but one of the things that they did do right in this recent Homeland Security shutdown is that they didn't give in. Even after that, that White House correspondent shooting for our listeners, I'm air quoting.
Yeah.
And
No, I'm trying to can see the
yeah,
setting.
Yeah, because there's the one thing they did do right is that they didn't give in with that. Um, and they forced the GOP to vote for a funding bill for DHS that didn't include ICE or Border Patrol. And so they actually
That's
did do
coming
that.
up again on Monday.
Oh, it is, but I mean the initial to fund everything else, like the TSA and all that stuff, they've done that. And so they're going to have to do that through reconciliation because Democrats weren't supporting it.
Yeah, that's coming up again on Monday, I think. I heard they went home for the weekend, they're coming back for that. So be aware of it, folks. If they're going to um fund ICE, and I think they wanted money for Secret Service as well for the next 3 years. But there has to be stipulations. These guys just can't run amok. And this article is very good in regards to this man. Spent a great deal of this is like investigative reporting. This is good reporting. Um, he did a good job. Kudos to Politico. Um, and
Yeah.
kudos to for Politico for letting us read the articles. Sometimes some media posts things and then, there's a paywall. Um, and I know like some independent, they need, but thank you, Politico, for letting us just
And
read
we'll
it.
attach, and we'll definitely attach the article for our listeners to the show notes, along with the Lathrop Vorsby Scholarship Fund information on their website. So, do you have anything else, Nance?
Oh, do I have anything else? So late night tweets. He's got to stop. Who's doing this? Well, first of all, like, how is he making these AI memes? Is he doing this himself? Does he have like a little partner sitting there next to him helping him make those little AI, like the guy when they're
I
at the
don't.
beach?
Oh, I don't think so. I think, he's probably using Grok, which is Elon Musk's AI thing on AI program. He's
But
probably,
you think Donald Trump is making like
you,
these
oh, it
AI
does,
images?
it
No.
doesn't take, well, it doesn't take much to do it. All you have to do is just,
Oh,
say what you want and then
he's
it
an
gives
80,
you.
he's like 80 years old. Like, takes me 30 minutes to figure out how to, you
Well,
know,
usually, and
insert audio. So,
but ChatGPT actually, you could do a lot of these images. The one that I did for our episode a few weeks ago with Meryl Streep and The Devil Wears Prada, I got that from ChatGPT.
oh,
And
okay.
so, so it's and so that was and so you just tell it what you want and it'll give it to you essentially.
All right. Well, I'm going to learn. So I'm definitely going to learn. So on that, but otherwise, part of me is like, do I want to subscribe to social? It's like, no, I can see it on regular media.
Yeah, we'll see. But I don't need to.
No,
That's sort of their version of Pravda.
yeah, no, thank you. So I'm not going to do that. What's up there, Guillermo? Guillermo's like, all right, I want to play. All right, you've sat here long enough, and
Well, we're gonna
yeah,
get off, Guillermo, so it's all good. So on that note, this is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
I'm Nancy Richards. See you next week.
See you next week.